everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Public Health Podcast. This is Natasha from the Harker Public Health Club, and I'm so excited to be joined today by Dr. Julie Shi. Dr. Shi is currently a school psychologist for the Fremont Unified. So if you want to quickly introduce yourself beyond that, or we can just get into the first question.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julie. Thank you so much for your invitation, Natasha. On top of being a school psychologist, I have been using positive psychology since 2002 in my parenting seminars. I also am an adjunct faculty for Sophia University to teach positive psychology since 2017. So for me, that's a prevention because my job as a school psychologist in public schools mainly is for remediation. Once children already have significant problems, either in learning, behavior, or social or emotional difficulties that prevent them from reaching or developing their potentials to the fullest, they came to me for diagnostic testing and follow-up work. I personally prefer, professionally, I prefer positive psychology, which is to prevent problems getting to be that significant. So I just want to cover that end of it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we can just go into the first question. So what originally sparked your interest in psychology and more specifically children and teens mental health?
I first became interested in psychology. At that time, I don't even know the term psychology in high school because because my parents argued a lot, I pretty much wasted my junior high 3 years away in China. Once I got into high school, based on my performance level at that time, I should be a dropout. I had no solid foundation for knowledge for high school, and I have no confidence in my ability either. But luckily, I had a very good high school teacher. I was in my high school years was in China, 1986. That teacher visited me at home and told me that you're the youngest student in my class and you look very intelligent, and why your grades are nowhere, nowhere you're supposed to be. He had no idea that my entrance exam score was not done by me. I got in that very elite high school, not through the normal way. So, but because of that trust, I was able to face learning in a different light. I had more confidence. I started to listen and do my homework after school. Within the second semester of my first year in high school, I was able to move from the bottom of the class to top 15. And then the second and third year of high school, I was the top 3. So that really changed my whole life. I was supposed to be a high school dropout, but I went to college unexpectedly, and I stayed in college for 11 years, 2 masters and 1 PhD. And I still love learning until this day because of that one half-an-hour visit from my high school teacher. So I always wanted to know what happened to me. If it happened to me, it could happen to everybody. So later on in college, I learned that I'm a product of Pygmalion effect. So I changed to psychology as my major for my first master's in China. And I stayed in the field of psychology since then. I really want to work with children and teenagers because I know that mental health is like the one before all the zeros in math. Without the mental health, nothing matters. The more I work in the field of school psychology in public schools, the more I realize that no matter how high a child's IQ is, unless he has that mental health, his potential is not going to be fully developed. It really hurts me. I mean, there was 1 year, 2007. That 1 year, I tested 4 high school students whose IQ are all over 130, which means top 2 percentile. All of them had a significant mental health issues. in public school psychologists do testing for children to find out whether they are eligible for special education services. We have 13 disability categories in public school system. One of that is emotional disturbance. Basically, they're for children with significant emotional difficulties. So that's it really hurts me to see that they, based on their cognitive ability skills, they should be top students. Unfortunately, they cannot even handle regular class. They cannot even come to school. They missed so much school. They couldn't, due to anxiety or depression. And one of them actually dropped out. The other three, we were able to keep them in special education classes, but one dropped out, and we don't know where he went. He just couldn't handle the attendance requirement for public schools, in spite of all the support that we try to provide in school. So it just really hurts me to see all these intelligent children couldn't lead a successful life due to mental health issues. So that's why I really want to raise the awareness for mental health and support the mental health development for children and teenagers.
Yeah, that's really amazing to hear about your own experiences and how you're turning that into now helping the next generation of children and teens struggling in school. And yeah, I think that's just a really amazing way of continuing your journey. And so going into a next question. So I know people have slightly varying definitions of mental health. So we're just wondering how you define mental health.
Well, it's not how I define. I like the definition. WHO. WHO defines it as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stress of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. When I first saw this definition years ago, I feel like, oh, isn't this my definition for success for my own two children? If they can realize their own ability, cope with normal stress of life, work productively and fruitfully, and make contribution to the community, I would define that as success. So that make it even more essential. Everybody needs it. Just because you don't have mental illness doesn't mean that you have mental health. Can you realize your own ability? Can you cope with normal stress of life? Can you work productively or fruitfully no matter what happens around you, and always make that contribution to the community? I mean, a lot of times people have such stigma or misunderstanding of mental health. They felt that, mental health is only people with mental illness needs that, but everybody needs it because it shows a sense of contentment for our life, and it demonstrates a zest for living, and indicates the ability for you to bounce back from adversity, a sense of meaning and a purpose, flexibility to learn new things and adapt to changes, and a balance between rest and activity, work and play. And plus, it shows your ability to build and maintain fulfilling relationships. So everybody needs it, not just people who has mental illness.
Yeah, I completely agree on that point. Yeah, I think people sort of associate mental health with like just one very small aspect of it, like mental illness, when yeah, mental health affects everyone and it's an important part of everyone's lives. So our next question was, what are some of the most common sources of mental and emotional stress that you found among the students that you worked with?
In the year 2013 and 2014, I was one of the judges for essay, high school essay contest in the Bay Area. We actually started in the Bay Area, but many high school students from other states participated as well. Based on the response that we got, it was pretty consistent that social comparison and also your personal definition of for success, well, actually very narrow, I should say very narrow personal definition for success really correlates with teenagers' mental health. So our first essay contest, the question is, what's the number one mental health challenge for you in high school? Most students told us it's a social comparison with peers and reaching for reaching for the goal set by social norm, and that leads to different mental health issues. The second essay contest, the title is "How does your personal definition of success affect your mental health?" And I was really impressed. I remember one student's essay said that, "Oh, I finally recognized that there was a common denominator to my mental health problems, which is my personal fear of failure. So they're afraid to fail. And how do they define failure? Low grades. To the point that some student told me that I used to love learning until I got that D, honors chemistry, and then all my focus become to raise to get that straight A's. And so so that's, to me, is a big challenge right now, especially for the Bay Area. High achieving schools. Looks like the weight is on the grades a lot more than what it should be. Instead of learning as a balanced experience, they took a narrow view of school.
Yeah, absolutely. As a high school student myself, I feel I can definitely relate to a lot of the points brought up in the essays and what you talked about as well.
Yeah, it really shows. Like 2009, that was the year that there were 5 high school students committed suicide in one semester, in 6-month period in Palo Alto. Challenge Success from it's an organization from Stanford University. They did a survey of over 5,000 high school students in the Bay Area. It's very alarming. 54% of female students reported that they have 3 or more symptoms of physical stress in the past month. 32 male students reported 3 or more symptoms of physical distress in the past month. I work with students. They will tell me that, oh, I have, I constantly need to go to the bathroom, or I have chest pain. I'm like, you are 12, you have chest pain? That's so these are all symptoms of stress. Couldn't go to, couldn't fall asleep, or constant headache, or neck pain, things like that. Lots of symptoms. The percentage is too high compared with this age.
So transitioning off of that, we know that mental health has become an especially pertinent issue with the COVID-19 pandemic. So do you have any advice for high school students coping with new sources of stress during this time?
It is indeed a very challenging time. We are social animals. At the beginning of pandemic, I remember I was leading a group of 100 Bay Area teenagers going through my curriculum of positive use. My high school student would tell me, said that, Julie, my mom keep me at home. Yes, physically I'm healthy, but mentally I'm having a breakdown. I cannot see my friends. I mean, at that time, nobody knows that we wouldn't see our friends for over a year. That I don't know how we get through, honestly speaking. Because in 1946 to 2020, there were 83 studies studied the impact of social isolation or loneliness on the mental health of previously healthy children and adolescents. The number of samples adds up to over 50,000 students, and the mean age is 15.3. And 63 out of the 83 studies reported that, yes, social isolation and loneliness has a significant negative impact on students' mental health. It's really difficult. Starting from the point of view of a positive psychologist, I'd like to say that the most effective way to drive away darkness is use light. So we have a positivity ratio in as evident through different studies in positive psychology. Yes, negative emotions are important for our survival, such as under fear, we can run faster. Those are very important. Or when we're sad, we cry. I mean, it's a natural part of us. But we need to make an effort to keep the neutral or positive emotions at least 3 times more than negative emotions to keep ourselves healthy mentally. So how to do that? Remember that our gut is our second brain. So eating healthy actually will boost our mood. A lot of the brain food actually is also food for our mood. So for example, like those food that rich in omega-3 or fiber or vitamin, all this, whatever is good for your brain is good for your mood. So healthy diet definitely can boost our mood instead of going to the the emotional eating, which is sometimes too salty or those junk food that's not good for your mood at all. Another important thing is definitely sleep. So more than 70% of students in California does not get more than the adequate number of hours of sleep, which is at least 8. Actually, American Sleep Foundation recommends 9.25 hours of sleep for teens. A very small percentage of students can reach that quota. I remember 2009, our high school, Mission San Jose High School, also participated in the survey for Challenge Success. The average number of sleep for our high school is 6.5. So it's a far less what's recommended for this age. So if you want to be healthy emotionally and mentally, make sure that you have enough sleep. And there are many other things like make sure, how to make that quota of 3 to 1, how to raise your positive emotions. You have hobbies that you enjoy. You have a pet, you play with your pet and walk in nature. So nature, somehow the brain really is relaxing for us. Also the exercise. Exercise is very important. I used to tell my students, oh, you got regular exercise to the point of light sweating. So that will boost the release of serotonin. Well, it turned out that 90% of serotonin is actually produced in your guts. So exercise, good food, these are all very good. So physiologically boost up your positive emotions. There are many other ways, such as you make sure you have a good relationship with people around you. So you need that social support from your family, your friends. Make sure you still stay in contact with your friends. Now that schools are opening, so that's good. So you can be with your friends again. Another important thing that, well, 2 things I want to mention. One is meaning and goals. So you make sure that you have meaningful activities. You find value in what you're doing. So that's very important for your mental health. Plus your positive mindset, how you look at the problem. That's very important. If you look at just a temporary problem as a permanent denial to your self-value, such as a low grade on a test, then it's not good for you. You're going to exaggerate the impact on you. I still remember that back in 2009, there was a documentary called Race to Nowhere. And it was dedicated to an 8th grader in Danville who committed suicide. And the mother, they interviewed the mother, what happened? It was a very high achieving girl, beautiful. And the mother said, oh, it's all that stupid F. I was pondering that. I'm just thinking, it's not that the mom believed that it because she got an F in algebra test on Friday, and then Saturday she committed suicide at home. The mom blamed it on the algebra test, but it's not that test. It's how you look at the test score. If you feel like F is not acceptable, it's a total blow to who I am. Of course, that's going to be tough for you to accept. If you feel like, oh, that's just the one chapter that I did not get the concept. And then you're going to look at it as, oh, how am I going to, maybe I should talk with my dad or get a tutor or just to work on that one chapter. It's not a big deal. It's a temporary problem. So how you look at a temporary problem is going to determine your attitude and feelings and your actions afterwards and how much effort you want to put in the same task. So all that. There are many other things under pandemic that we can engage in to make sure that we stay in the positive mental health. So things like make sure that if you feel stressed, talk to someone. Yeah, it could be your parents or it could be your friends, and so talk to someone. Make sure that we have the growth mindset instead of a fixed mindset. And once you talk to someone, you're going to figure out that, oh, you know what, we think that we see the whole truth. Actually, we only see what we believe in. So that's the we all have the confirmation bias. We only look at for things that confirms what we believe in. So expand what you pay attention to. Be grateful for, if you keep a gratitude journal, that's going to boost up your positive emotion right there. Many research showed that if you can write down 3 things that you're grateful for, or even if you're too busy just to pick out one day out of the week and to write down about 5 things you're grateful for. So all that practice will help you to not only get out of a bad mood quickly, but also increase your energy level, improve your sleep quality, and reduce stress and other symptoms, and even correlates with the longevity. Other things is like distract yourself. If you feel like you cannot get yourself out of some negative moods, and do something that you enjoy, or stay away from that setting, or just to think about, you know what, in 10 years when I look back, does this still look that significant? You can look back at something you were really embarrassed about back in elementary school. Does that still matter right now? It doesn't. So put it in the longer perspective. So all these are ways that we can help ourselves.
Yeah, that's a really amazing advice. And I know that a lot of things kind of, struck home with me, and I'll definitely keep those in mind. And so, going off of that, how can schools and teachers also better support their students?
There are many things that school could do. Like, for example, October 10th is the World Mental Health Day. Do some events. Could it be, it's just some fun events. I think student leaders like you could organize those things, like oh, let's do a bike race, but the slowest bike race. You know what I mean? So instead of the fastest one, we're looking for the slowest person who can ride a bike without falling down. Or just show your hobby, or do an art contest for mental health. What does mental health look like for you? Or do a wellness seminar, or a kick sale, or some other things, just to show that, oh, you know what, we're not only students, but I didn't know that you're a great baker, just have a bake sale or something. So mindfulness practice, do a yoga break, or mindful breathing exercise between and during lunchtime. Have some time, some room where you can calm down if you feel you need a space. So maybe the school can arrange a room like that. And also the connection. The most important thing the school could do is to emphasize or encourage teachers to build that connection with students. In my junior high, I remember that our principal made sure that each day you see, ask the faculty to each day you say hi to 3 different students outside of your classroom. So instead of in class, so make sure that make an effort to connect with students outside of your class. Make sure that you emphasize not only the grades, but also integrity, or friendliness, or respectfulness, or helpfulness in your class. So all these are great characters that we learn, but does not get recognized or emphasized in a school setting. So all this different character building, and also make sure that you try to connect the knowledge to authentic projects, things that they can apply in life, so that that will raise the joy in learning, meaningful assignments, and honor engagements, and all the other things in learning. So, and peer support, all that will help the students to know that, teachers care about me, not only about my grades, but also about who I am. So all this will definitely boost students' mental health.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Connection is super important, especially like in the context of the pandemic and the fact that we don't have that that usual just in person, like you say hi in the hallway, that kind of thing. And so I guess a little bit of a transition on that question. So how can schools work to destigmatize mental health and foster safe spaces for conversation?
I think that requires effort for the whole community. Maybe just some wellness seminars and make sure that the parents understand. I think the parents need to know that you know, symptoms of depression, how to deal with that, how to communicate with your children. So I think parents need to be on board as well for this, so that they know if my child talks to me that I'm not feeling well, I need to talk to someone. They recognize that they need to take it seriously, just as pneumonia. So it's the same thing. Their mental health is as important, if not more, than their physical health. So I think that school definitely can work with parents in regular activities or seminars, and even activities like what you're doing right now, the public health podcast. So all this, hopefully your school communities parents hear about it too, so that they know that, oh wow, I didn't know that it actually matters to my children's future more than their grades. So all this, I mean, parents love their children. So as long as they understand the significance, they will support it.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so I think that was all of the questions that I had for you today, but I just wanted to thank you again for sharing all of your insights. I've definitely learned so much from your presentation, and there's a lot that I can take away, and I'm sure that the rest of the Harker community can take away as well. So just wanted to thank you so much for coming and speaking to us.
Oh, you're welcome. Best luck for your school year and beyond. And thank you again for your invitation.
Thank you so much.